Okay, I'm joined here by Jim Demers, who's an advisor on the Hillary campaign for the 2016 election race and also a former manager on the Barack Obama campaign in 2008. Thanks for joining us today. Jim, can you just tell us your thoughts initially on what's happening here in New Hampshire? How do you see the Democratic race progressing?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton has an uphill fight right now. And if you look at New Hampshire historically, next door neighbors always win here. I mean, going all the way back to John Kennedy, Edmund Muskie from Maine, even Paul Tsongas from Massachusetts beat Bill Clinton here. So we know we've got an uphill battle here in the state, but we're doing everything we can to close the gap, and then we'll move on to the next round of states.
You're making a reference there to the more local character she's up against, which is, of course, Bernie Sanders from neighboring Vermont state, right?
Right, yes.
And why is it, I mean, of course, being a local does help in some ways, but obviously Hillary has been shocked by what happened in the Iowa caucuses, where Bernie Sanders came a lot closer to her than was expected, and of course here he's overtaking her. What does that say about how the campaign is going to carry out?
I think we're in a pretty good spot. It was always expected that the race would be competitive in the early states. We're going to be moving on to Nevada and the Carolinas, and we know that's our firewall. We've built a really strong campaign there. I really do think that tomorrow will be a surprise, that Hillary Clinton is going to close the gap. I'm not convinced we're going to win here, but the momentum will be breaking and is breaking right now for Hillary Clinton. So we're going to be leaving New Hampshire in a much stronger position than what the polls showed last week.
And why is it that you think that younger voters, because obviously here on the Trail News we're interested in what millennials are thinking and voting with, they seem to be coming out in droves for Bernie, the burner revolution as it is, and really not so interested with Hillary, who's probably seen as a politician who's been in the game and in such high-profile positions for too long.
Yeah, I think Bernie Sanders has done a really good job tapping into the anger that exists in the country today. I mean, both Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have played that card. But I think people should look at Hillary Clinton as the realistic, pragmatic progressive who can get things done. And I can assure you that if you look at the way that Congress is structured today, they are not going to reopen Obamacare and move towards socialized medicine. That just doesn't fit with the model of our economy and our government. People here in the state are not interested in a tax increase on the middle class, which is a very big part of Bernie Sanders' agenda. So I think Hillary Clinton is the more realistic progressive in this race, and I think that's what's going to really make her the president.
Mm-hmm. And given your experience on the Obama campaign in 2008, which was a campaign which was driven a lot by social media and getting large numbers of people to give small amounts of money. Now, I'm seeing that kind of campaign approach much more clearly reflected in the Bernie Sanders campaign this time around than I am in Hillary's. Is Hillary not taking your advice on that one?
Yeah, no, I think the big difference that came from the Obama campaign in 2008 was a rebuilding and a refocus on grassroots campaigning. When David Plouffe came to me in 2008 and said, we're going to build a real grassroots organization in New Hampshire, I thought those days were long gone. But we did build a tremendous organization that knocked on the doors, that talked to the voters, that got the vote out. It was that personal connection that carried Barack Obama to the presidency more than anything. And we're seeing that this time, not only with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton's campaigns, but even the Republicans now have realized that this resurgence of grassroots is how you get the message across to voters. So that's what I think a lot of people learned from 2008, and it's carried over into this election.
But do you not feel that that's Hillary Clinton's weakness, that hers isn't really a grassroots campaign? Hers is a campaign which is backed by big money. We all know about the money that she's taken from Goldman Sachs and other big donors, and she's using that money to push herself out there in places like New Hampshire. But it's a top-down, not a bottom-up structure.
Yeah, no, it's not all about money, and both of the candidates have raised significant sums of money. But it really is more about people that are on the ground carrying the message, both of the campaigns have got tremendous organizations on the ground here. And I think that's really what's happening here in New Hampshire this time around.
One final question. In every election, there's always a bit of a wild card, and it looks like the wild card tomorrow in New Hampshire might be the snowstorm that's going to start today. If that does become a big issue and people aren't able to get to the polling stations, how's that going to play out in the election, do you think?
Well, it is a concern for a lot of people because the weather prediction for tomorrow is most of the snow is going to be in the southern part of the state, which is where most of the population is. That is not necessarily good for either of the Democrats who are running because that's where our votes and Bernie Sanders' votes are. It's very helpful for Republicans, and as you head into the north country of New Hampshire, the more conservative area of our state, it helps the more conservative candidates. I think the important thing is people in the state have dealt with weather before. They're planning for tomorrow, but we're going to see long lines when the polls close because this is a storm that's going to clear by the end of the day, and people, when they get out of work, who might have voted in the morning are going to go at night. So it could be a very late night before we get results on anything.
Jim Demers of the Hillary campaign, thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure.